ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaste, my dear friends. This is the second video on the Kaivalya Navneetam book recommended by Maharshi Ramana to his devotees. I left the first video with the wording. Now listen how liberation while alive. Persist disembodiment also. Verse 103. Manifold karma in store, gathered in many births, is altogether burnt away in the fire of jnana, like cotton in a huge conflagration. Further accumulating karma can never approach the jnani. The karma which has brought about the present incarnation is exhausted by experiencing its fruits. Verse number 104. How will the merits and demerits of actions during his experience of prarabdha cease to affect him later on? His detractors share the demerits and his devotees the merits. Verse 105. The causal body of ignorance is reduced to ashes in the fire of rare jnana. The visible gross body becomes a corpse in due course. Then, like a drop of water on red hot iron, the subtle body is dissolved in the self which underlies these three bodies and remains entire all along. Verse 106. As soon as the entity of a pot is broken up, the ether in the pot becomes indistinguishable from the all-pervading ether. So also, when the limitation of the body is gone, the Jivan Mukta reverts to the natural eternal disembodied state of liberation, free from beginning, middle, or end, and in or out. Verse number 107. Just as the ether through all pervading seems to the newly opened in a well which is newly dug, so Brahma, though ever present, yet appears as if realized afresh by enquiry into the self, as taught by a master or the scriptures. Therefore, O son, be at peace. We are always the same limitless beings. Verse number 108. The whole universe is as unreal as water in a mirage, silver in mother of pearl, the city of Gandharvas in the air, the dreamland of dream, the blue of the sky, the serpent in a robe, the offspring of a barren woman, the horn of a hare, or the thief in a thick post. Ocean, pure consciousness is alone real. Do not therefore forget the self at any moment. Thus ends the first section of Kaivalya Navneetam. Section 2. Doubts cleared away. Verse number 1. Master, just as man dig a hole gently, plant a long post in it, fill in earth and ram into fix it firmly, so too I take to clearing away doubts that your mind, which has realized the self as being the supreme consciousness, may remain unshaken. Verse number 2. The disciple, pure minded and self realized, clung to his master from the time of wrong identification of the self with the body to the moment of unmolded, unembodied liberation, like a young monkey clings to its mother. Verse number 3. Finding that the loving disciple keeps to him like his shadow, the master asks him, are you able to stay unshaken as a mere witness? Have all your doubts disappeared, or does the sense of differentiation creep in at times? Tell me your condition. Verse 4. On this the disciple said, Master, dare the phantoms of differentiation which can roam about only in the darkness of ignorance, in the wilderness of worldly life, appear to the inner vision in the broad daylight of wisdom after the sun of your teaching has risen over the summit of your grace. Verse 5. Even after the devil is exorcised, just as the person who was possessed in further protected by a talisman against any return of the trouble, so also through my ignorance has already been dispelled by your touching. Yet, Master, I seek more from you, that I may be firmly fixed in the self. Verse number 6. You said, know it from the scriptures that the self is Brahma, non-dual Brahma cannot be reached by speech, study or discussion. It must be realized in the heart. Self-shining Brahma cannot be reached by the miserable mind. Please clear what seems to be the contraction of the two statements. Verse number 7. Master, as Brahma is neither an object of the senses nor an object of inference, and as there is no second to it, it is beyond direct perception, inference, or analogy. Also know that being free from attributes, it cannot be expressed by words. Verse 8. The Vedas, which declare that Brahma lies beyond words, also signify it by the text, thou that thou art. If you ask which is right, know that both are right, for the Vedas can never be untrue. Verse number 9. A girl says, not he, of all others, and remains shy and silent when her lover is pointed out. In the same way, the Vedas clearly deny when is when is not Brahma, not this, and indicate Brahma by silence. Verse number 10. Having answered the first part of your question, I proceed to answer the second. The heart governs the external senses, its faculties operate internally and externally as intellect and mind. Verse number 11. As your face is seen reflected in a mirror, so the image of pure consciousness is seen in intellect. Along with this, the mind proceeds to function, and this is called knowledge. Verse 12. As molten metal takes the shape of the mold into which it is poured, so the mind assumes the shape of the objects and they are revealed by the reflected light. Without eyesight and light, an object in darkness cannot be discovered. Verse number 13. The aid of a burning lamp and clear eyesight are required to discover an object in darkness, but to see the sun, eyesight alone will do. To see the manifest universe, both moded mind and reflected consciousness are necessary, but to realize the reality, moded mind eager for realization will alone serve. Verse number 14. The union of the moded mind and the reflected self is called the mind. Brahma can be reached by the mind for the reason that the mode of mind directed to itself is necessary for realization. Brahma cannot be reached by the part of the mind which is reflected consciousness, thus reconciling the meaning free from doubt. Verse number 15. Disciple, Master, I have understood your teaching so far. Please let me ask you another question. Free from movement, unbroken, perfect, and transformed into that, is not such a state of mind called samadhi yoga or union in peace? How can this mind, always moving like a swing and raising up several words in a trice, be stilled so that it may remain steady in the self like a flame protected from droughts? Verse 16. Master, the active mind is composed of three gunas. When one of them is uppermost, the other two lie covert with sattva. Divine qualities manifest with rajoguna. Tendencies pertaining to the world, the body, and the shastras manifest with tamoguna. The evil nature manifests. Verse number 17. Sattva is the very nature of the mind, whereas the other two qualities are more adjuncts and can therefore be banished from it. If one holds steadily to one's divineness, rajas and tamas will get strangled so that the internal stresses and the external manifold disappear. When this happens, your mind shines forth untainted and becomes motionless and subtle like the ether, and then it naturally becomes one with Brahma, which is already so and remains in undifferentiated peace, nirvikalpa samadhi. Verse number 18. When one stainless mirror is placed in front of another similar one, the reflecting surface will be one undistinguishable whole. Similarly, when the mind which is clear has become one with the infinite Satchit Ananda Brahma and remains untainted, how can there be the manifold or moments in the mind? Tell me. Verse 19. Disciple, how then can the wise, liberated while alive, exhaust their prarabdha if their mind has lost itself in Brahma and become one with it? Is it not done only by experiencing its results? Such experience would certainly require the mind. There cannot be any kind of experience in the absence of the mind. If the mind persists, how can it be said to be liberated? I am confused on this point. Be pleased to clear this doubt of mine, for I cannot be liberated unless all my doubts are cleared away. Verse 20. Master, the annihilation of the mind is of two grades, namely of the mind pattern and of the mind itself. The former applies to sages liberated while alive, and later to disembodied embodied sages. Elimination of rajas and tamas, leaving sattva alone, is the dissolution of the pattern of the mind. When sattva vanishes along with the subtle body, the mind itself is said to have perished too. Verse 21, sattva is pure and forms the very nature of the mind. When rajas and tamas, which give the pattern to it, are destroyed by proper practice, the identity of the term mind is lost. For in such a state, the sages will partake of what comes unsolicited to them, not think of the past or future, nor exult in joy or lament in sorrow, getting over their doership and becoming non-doers, witnessing the mental moods and the three states, waking, dream, and dreamless sleep, they can remain liberated at the same time as they pass through prarabdha. There is no contradiction in it. You need have no doubts on this point. Verse number 22. On hearing that the whole period of activity is also the state of peace, you may object, saying, does not action denote changing mind, and on such change does not peace slip away? The state of the sage is like that of a girl who never ceases to thrill with love for her paramour, even while she attends to her duties at home. Verse number 23, disciple should the sage liberated while alive who has transcended the incidents of the body, gross and subtle bodies, lost the sense of doership and the whole individuality and become one with Brahma, be said to be the experiencer of prarabdha. He must also be the doer. Can there be experience to a perfect non-doer? Master, hear their greatness as perfect doers, perfect enjoyers, and perfect renouncers. Verse 24, as a hill of lodestone neither moves of itself nor puts things in motion, and yet pieces of iron orient themselves towards it. I neither act by itself nor actuate others, and yet the whole world is active before me. Like the sun, I remain an unconcerned witness of all the functions of the body, senses, etc., and also of the state of peace resulting from the merging of the mind in Brahma. One possessed of these, one possessed of this firm experience is the perfect doer. Verse number 25, the perfect enjoyer is he who partakes of anything that comes his way without discriminating whether it be tasty or not, clean or unclean, healthy or unhealthy, like a blazing fire consuming all that lies in its way. He whose mind is crystal clear, unaffected by passing phases, great or small, good or bad, his own or others, is the perfect renouncer. A liberated sage is strictly an exemplar of these three virtues united. Verse 26, disciple, how can it be reckoned that the task of the sage is finished? If by prarabdha he lives on in a body acting and teaching to suit others desirous of liberation. Verse number 27, Master, occupations of people are of three kinds, those pertaining to the present life and those pertaining to hereafter are only for the ignorant, possessed by desire for enjoyment, sense of ownership, and attachment to the body. Only those who long for deliverance turn to the learning of the truth, etc. Is there anything to be gained by learning, or other similar actions for a person who is all perfect. Verse 28 Disciple, it is right that they alone can practice true wisdom who have deliberately discarded the joys of life here and hereafter. Can those who have turned away from worldly activities and rituals to treat the path of liberation ever turn back to the old methods? Are not hearing, reasoning, and meditation necessary to make the mind firm? Verse 29 Master, they who do not know must learn the truth as taught by the scriptures and masters. Those who have doubts must engage in reasoning. Those who are in the grip of wrong knowledge must practice meditation. Can there be anything wanting for those who have become the real ethereal being consciousness perfection? Verse 30 Disciple, can the wise also say like the ignorant, I did, I saw, I ate, and I went? You say that they are free from wrong knowledge. Can realization of Brahma, which is real, admit of such expression? Please enlighten me on this point. Master, a person who wakes up from a dream speaks of his experiences in the dream. In the same way, the self realized says, though using the language of ignorant is not bound as the ego, a man who commits himself to the flames on the eve of his becoming an immortal God is spoken of only as a man until his body is reduced to ashes. So also the ego-free sage appears to function like others until he is disembodied. Verse 32 Disciple, if so, though the objects are unreal, would not the transactions associated with them cause misery? Can they bestow the bliss of knowledge? It can be felt only in their absence. Is it not necessary to be one pointed? And if the person practices it, can he be said to have finished his task? Master, verse number 33, Master, activities and when prarabdha ends, is not practice of samadhi or worldly work an activity of the mind being one with the transcendent self? Can he do anything different from it? Should he be practicing samadhi? He cannot be said to be established in the self. Verse 34 Disciple, how is it then that some of those who are established in the self and have nothing more to do practice mind restraining meditations? Master, I have already told you that the sages liberated while alive appear to he active in many ways according to their prarabdha. Verse number 35. Hear me further. The activities of the sage are solely for the uplift of the world. He does not stand to lose or gain anything. The Almighty, who is only the store of grace for the world, is not affected by the merit or demerit of the creation, etc. Verse 36 Disciple, you speak of a Jnani and Isvara as the same. How can they be so? Master, yes, Isvara and the Jnani are the same because they are free from I and mine. The Jnani is himself Isvara, the totality of the Jivas and also the cosmos. Verse 37 Disciple, Lord, if as you say he is all jivas, when he is liberated, how can others remain bound? If the jivas are said to be diverse, he cannot be all. Verse 38 and 39 Master, the Self which shine forth as I in all is perfect and impartite, but jivas are as diverse as the limitations found by the ego. Look how the moon, who delights the world, is only one, whereas her reflected images are as many as there are ponds, pools, tanks, streams, cisterns, and pitchers of water. When one of them is destroyed, the image is no longer reflected but is reabsorbed in its source, namely the moon. It cannot be so with the other reflected images in the same manner. The jiva whose limitations are destroyed is withdrawn into its source, the self, but the other jivas are not. Verse 40 Disciple, how can a jnani be the same as Ishvara, who is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the lords of creation, preservation, and destruction of the universe? They can divine the thoughts of others, know the past, present, and future, and are immanent in all. I do not find even a trace of these qualities in the Jnani. Verse 41 Master, the water in a tank and a powerful light help the whole village, whereas a pot of water and a table lamp help only the family circle in a home. Isvara and the Jnani do not differ in their jnana, however, associated with the limitations of the Maya, they are spoken of as superior and inferior. Verse 42 Like the kings and the siddhas among men, the gods such as Narayana have some extraordinary powers like anima, etc., because of their extraordinary antecedent austerities, although men do not possess these powers and therefore appear less, yet from the standpoint of Brahma there is not the least difference between them. Verse 43 Disciple, although there have been many sages in the world who possessed these extraordinary powers like anima, minuteness, etc., you say these powers are Ishwar's own. Please clarify this. Master, know that the powers are the fruits of their devotion to the glorious Almighty, being their austerities and practices of yoga. Verse 44 Disciple, Master, if these powers and deliverance are together the fruits of tapas, then all the sages should possess both as the ancient sages did. We have known that the ancient sages had these siddhis and were also liberated at the same time. Why do not all jnanis possess such powers as well? Verse 45 Master of the two types of tapas, ascetic practice, namely tapas for the fulfillment of one's desires and dispassionate tapas, the former bestows the powers, desires, and the later wisdom. Each can yield its allotted fruits only. That is the law. The ancient sages had evidently performed both kinds of tapas. Verse 46 Janaka, Mahabali, Bhagiratha, and others got deliverance only. Did they display any siddhis? No, some of the sages sought siddhis only, others sought both siddhis and emancipation. These siddhis are simply for display and nothing more. They do not make for liberation. Verse 47 Disciple, if emancipation is the sole outcome of the realization of identity of the individual self with the universal self, how then did some of the sages who were liberated here and now exert themselves for the attainment of siddhis. Master, Prarabdha spends itself only after bestowing its fruits to be experienced as pain or pleasure. Therefore, the siddhis gained by emancipated sages must be considered to be the results of prarabdha only. Verse 48 and 49, Disciple, Master, I am now free from the delusions of the mind and remain pure and clear. However, there is certainly no harm in cleansing a mirror a little more, even though it is already clean. Can the scriptures say anything that is not absolutely true? Master, how can I reconcile the two statements? Number one, the karma of any person wears away only after bestowing its fruits. And second, the fire of pure wisdom burns away the karma which is waiting to bear fruits later on. Verse 50, Master, my son, the jivas are unlimited in number, capacity, and kind, and their actions also are similarly unlimited in three sections. The beneficent Vedas prescribe according to the aptitude of seekers with preliminary views succeeded by final conclusions like flowers by fruits. Verse number 51, is it not true that sinners who must suffer in the hells can yet be saved from them by means of pious gifts, mantras, austerities, yajna, and the like? He who has faith in the saying of the Vedas that the fire of jnana burns away all karma waiting to yield its results attain liberation. Verse 52, Disciple, Master, when true wisdom can root out the karma which has been accumulated in many incarnations and liberate the person, why do even the most brilliant of men not fit by this wisdom but fall into the rut of karma and perish? Please explain. Verse 53, Master, my son, those of interned mind will realize the everlasting that, like absent-minded walkers falling into a ditch, even with their eyes open, those of outgoing mind look for fulfillment of their desires, fall into the contemptible sea of never-ending rebirths and cannot gain liberation. Verse 54, Disciple, are not the good and the bad actions actuated by Isvara? What can the Jivas do who are themselves his creatures? How are they to blame? Master, these are words of illusion, worthy of fools, ignorant of the clear meaning of the scriptures. Verse 55, the creations of the Almighty Lord and of the individual Jiva are different. The Almighty's creation is cosmic and consists of all that is mobile and immobile. The unworthy Jiva's creation, which consists of attachments, passions, desires, and the like, pertains to the ego and is certainly not of the Almighty. Verse 56, the creations of the Almighty Lord who functions threefold, creator, preserver, destroyer, may constitute the means for liberation, whereas those of the Jivas are the maladies which cause them successive reincarnations. Liability to birth does not end for anyone, even if creation comes to an end. It only ends on the giving up of one's passions and the like. Verse 57, who has ever gotten free from rebirth at the time of the dissolution of the Lord's creation? No one, despite the persistence of time, space, and bodies, People have been liberated even here by destroying the illusion of individual creation and gaining knowledge. Therefore, bondage and illusion are clearly of the Jiva's own making and not of the Lord's. Verse 58, there is a tree called the Aswatha, and two birds live on it. One of them, who is full of desires, enjoys the fruits, saying, "This is sweet, this is sweet." The other, who is highly esteemed, does not eat thereof. Understand this parable by which the Holy Veda describes the Jiva and Iswara. Verse number 59, those fools head for disaster and who in their ignorance attribute to God the six evils: lust, anger, greed, delusion, conceit, and jealousy, which are of their own making, but the wise will gain untainted deliverance who recognize the same evils to be of their own making and not God's. Verse number 60, disciple, how is it that God, who is impartial, advances a few and degrades others? Master, he is like the father who encourages his sons who are in the right way and frowns on the other sons who are in the wrong way. Know it to be mercy to punish the erring and direct them to be righteous. Verse 61, the celestial tree, fire and water protect those who seek them by fulfilling their desires, keeping them warm and quenching their thirst. So also Ishvara is kind to his devotees and not so to others. Now think well and judge whose fault it is. Verse 62, now here is the vital point. Rebirth will be at an end for him who adopts with perseverance the way to deliverance shown by God in the scriptures, follows the sages, give up his evil propensities, discriminates the real from the unreal, rejects the illusion born of ignorance, and gains wisdom by realizing the self. Then and then only will rebirth be at an end for him. This is the truth. Verse 63, this wisdom can be gained by a long course of practice of unceasing inquiry into the self. Disciple, what is this inquiry? Master, inquiry consists in pondering over the questions: who is this I in the body, including mind, senses, etc.? What is sentience? What is insentience? What is their combination called bondage? What is release? Verse 64, disciple, the cumulative effect of all the meritorious actions of past births would confirm jnana on us. What is the need for an inquiry into the self? Master, listen carefully. The unselfish actions which were rendered into God help to keep of impurities and make the mind pure. The mind which has thus been purified then begins to inquire into the self and gains knowledge. Verse 65, disciple, Master, is it not possible for rituals and other powerful actions which confirm devotion, dispassion, happiness in the other world, supernatural powers, steadfastness in austerities, success in yoga, meditation, and divine form to give right knowledge which removes illusion? What need is there for inquiry also? Verse 66, Master, hear me. If you want to identify the persons in a masquerade, you set about to discover their nature, habits, and traits which are now hidden. If, on the other hand, you run about, jump, turn, somersaults, climb post, dance, and fuss about, that will not help you to recognize them. Verse 67. Likewise, enquiry alone can lead to the knowledge revealed in the Vedas, which only point to Brahman indirectly. Knowledge of the self cannot be gained by a study of the Vedas, feeding the hungry, performing austerities, repeating mantras, righteous conduct, sacrifices, and what not. Verse 68. Disciple, Master, the stain on a shining mirror can be removed only by rubbing it. Or has anyone made it stainless by knowledge only? Similarly, the dirt of ignorance should be removed by karma. How can it be done away with by knowledge, which is only mental? Verse 69. Master, son, the stain on a metallic mirror is material and also natural to it, but the black is not natural to the crystal quartz. It is only superimposed on it. Appropriate work is doubtless necessary to remove the stain on the mirror, but to know that the black is a superimposition on the crystal, the mind alone will succeed. Verse 70. Here also non-being, blank void, insentience and misery are all superimposed on being, consciousness, bliss by the play of Maya. They are neither natural nor real. The series of karma does not conflict with avidya, ignorance, though it is perishable. On the contrary, it nourishes it. Jnana, realization is the fire which burns away karma and ignorance. Verse number 71. A man who's forgotten where he left his things in the house cannot recover them by weeping even for 100 years, but he will get them only if he thinks the matter over and finds out. The self is realized directly by knowledge which destroys forgetfulness, ignorance, the root cause of all misery, but it cannot be realized by any amount of hard work, though extended over several eons, yugas. Verse number 72. Disciple, Master, why should the Vedas, we say that Jnana is the sole means of supreme bliss, classify karma in the karma khanda as merit, sin, and a mixture of the two, which makes the doers reincarnate as celestial beings, animals, beasts, birds, trees, insects, and so on, and human mm, beings respectively, and further prescribes special duties for different castes and orders of men as conferring happiness when properly done. Verse 73. Master, like the coaxing of a loving mother concerned with the sickness of her child who has eaten earth, who offers it a tempting sweet in which a medicine is wrapped, the cheering statement of the Vedas. Do your household duties, perform sacrifices, they are all good. Means something different. It is not understood by seekers of pleasures in heaven. Verse 74. Look, it is only natural that pleasure seekers eat what they get and embrace whom they can. Would the scriptures dictate what is after all natural to everyone? Do they not know so much? No one need order. Crow be black, fire burn, neem be bitter, you fleet wind blow. Verse 75. When the Vedas enjoin, if you desire fermented drinks and meat, have them by performing sacrifices. If you have sexual impulse, embrace your wife. The person is expected to desist from other ways of satisfying his desires. The Vedas aim at total renunciation only. Disciple, in that case, why should there be these commandments at all, Master? They are only preliminary and not final. Verse 76. Note that the Vedas which advise thus drink the fermented juice, eat the meat, later on say, smell it, note also the commandment, desire sexual union for the sake of a child, not gain the commandments, give up this also, the sacrifice, marriage, wealth, and other possessions. Note further that complete renunciation is not a slur on a sannyasi or a strict brahmachari. Understand the scheme for a whole. Give up any desire for action and thus you will gain beatitude. Verse 77 Disciple, Master, granting that action simply aid the ignorance which gives rise to the world. If knowledge be inimical to ignorance which brings about this diversity, how can such ignorance coexist with stainless knowledge like the spot in the moon and affect these creations? Verse 78 Master, consciousness, which is itself self luminous, has two aspects, pure consciousness and second, modal consciousness. The former manifests the latter, and they are not therefore exclusive of each other. You have known that pure consciousness is not inimical to ignorance in deep sleep. Modal consciousness burns away ignorance which rests on pure consciousness. Verse 79 Disciple, how can Maya, which expands and contracts like a bellows, remain unaffected by pure consciousness but be burnt away by modal consciousness? Master, see how the sun shines over the whole world and sustains it, yet becomes fire under a lens and burns. So also in Samadhi, modal consciousness can burn away ignorance. Verse 80 Disciple, do not actions include all modals of mind, speech, and body? Is not modal consciousness a function of the inner faculty? Then should we not say that actions, a special mood of mind, destroys ignorance? Why is it marked off with the imposing title of knowledge? Please explain. Verse 81 Master, modal consciousness is truly a mode of mind, but we have seen that the sons of the same mother fight among themselves. Actions pertain to the doer, whereas knowledge born of enquiry does not pertain to the individual but pertain to the thing in itself. Verse 82 The injunctions may be done, may not be done, or may be done differently, but knowledge which is paramount cannot be so. Meditation such as I am Brahma is certainly different from knowledge obtained by inquiry. To formulate one thing as another is forced yoga. Direct knowledge gained by experience cannot alone be true. Do not be deceived by fanciful ideas. Verse 83 Knowledge is the result of direct experience, whereas meditations is mere mental imagery of something heard. That which is heard from others will be wiped off the memory, but not that which is experienced. Therefore, that which is experienced is alone real, but not those things that are meditated upon. Know that knowledge, but not karma, is the destroyer of ignorance at sight. 80, verse 84 Do not doubt that unreal meditation can grant real final deliverance. Hear me, during meditation, the image meditated upon by hearsay is not real, but when it materializes and is seen face to face, it becomes real. Verse 85 If you ask how unreal meditation leads to real and everlasting deliverance, each one is reborn in accordance to with the last thought of his previous life. Persons are reborn in the form they meditated upon, but should one meditate upon the self in order to do away with any kind of rebirth, then one becomes the self. This is sure and certain. Verse number 86 Disciple, if those who meditate on attributeless, that is, transcendental Brahma, become that, where is the need for inquiry or for knowledge? Master, meditation upon Brahma is based on hearsay. However, it becomes a fact of experience in due course. This experience is called the everlasting inquiry knowledge or jnana, which destroys ignorance or deliverance. This is the final conclusion. 86, verse 87. Disciple, if the modal consciousness after destroying ignorance is left over in all perfect self, how can there be the experience of undivided being? Master, just as cleaning nut powder carries down the impurities in water and settle down with them, so also modal consciousness destroys ignorance and perishes with it. Verse 88, Disciple, what is the nature of the wise liberated here and now? Master, they are free from thoughts and therefore live happy like an undisputed overlord of the whole world or like a baby. The ideas of bondage and release vanish for them altogether, so much so that they laugh at those who speak of such things. For are they not to be laughed at who they say that a mosquito took in the ether and vomited it forth? Verse 89, the son of a barren woman and the man seen in the post were flowers gathered in the sky, wrangled over the price of the silver in mother of pearl. In the city of the Gandharvas, armed themselves with the horns of hares, fought and stabbed each other, died together, and turned into ghosts. No man of sense will be excited on hearing this story. Verse 90. Since Maya itself is unreal, all its creation must likewise be unreal. Can the progeny be of a different species than the mother? Therefore, do not heed heaven or hell, good or bad, but stay as the self which is Satya Chitta Ananda Purna perfection. Verse 91, Disciple, Master, tell me, is it not blasphemy to deny as unreal the lotus-seated Creator and the other gods? The great men of the world, holy water like the Ganges, the places of pilgrimage, the holy occasions, the four Vedas with their six auxiliaries, the mantras and austerities. Verse 92. Master, if it be sacrilege to deny dream visions as false, it would be sacrilege to deny the world with its contents, which derives its existence from illusion. If, on the other hand, it is right to deny dream visions, it is only right to deny the world also, which is derived from illusion. Verse 93. If the Puranas hold up as men of merit the ignorant who regard the false as true, does any Shastra attach censor to the Jnani for calling the truth? Maya, which appears as the elements and their modifications with different names and forms, is false. Only the self, which is all diffusive as Satya Chit Ananda, is the truth. Verse number 94. Disciple A. Of what nature is Maya? B. Who are in its grip? C. How did it come into being? D. Why did it arise? E. Duality is inevitable if Maya is separate from Brahma. F. If not separate, Brahma itself is false like Maya. Verse 95. Master. Because its nature is not determinable, Maya is said to be inexpressible. B. They are in its grip who think this is mine, I am the body, the world is real. C. No one can ascertain how this mysterious illusion came into being. D. As to why, it is because of the poison's want of vichara, discerning enquiry. Verse 96. E and F. A magician's unseen powers remain unknown until hordes of illusory beings make their appearance in the show. Similarly, the countless powers of Brahma remain unbroken, but they are inferred only after the manifestation of the elements. Verse 97. The magician who stands on terra firma and the woods conjured by him are visible to the onlookers. But his wonderful genius for magic remains mysterious. So also the handiwork of illusion, the world and the wilder of illusion. There are many powers distinct from Almighty Brahma and the world. Verse 98. The power is not apart from the wilder. The wilder of magic is real, but the apparitions of magic are not. Wise son, you can from this illustration ascertain the true nature of the reality, which is the wilder of illusion, and which are at the same time remains whole and as the self. Thus get clear of your doubts. Verse 99. Disciple, why should the power which is unreal be said to exist? Master, look how the grasses and their like which appear insentient put forth blossoms and best crops, but for the consciousness pervading them all, the mobile and immobile beings would lose their immemorial nature. Verse 100. See the wonder of how the embryos in eggs develop into birds of so many hues, but for the governance of an unseen force, all the laws of nature would be blotted out like a kingdom without a king. Fire would burn, water, bitter things taste sweet, even the degraded would recite the Vedas, the immovable mountain ranges would float like clouds in the air, all the oceans would become sandy waste, and there would be no fixity anywhere. Verse 101. Disciple, Master, how can this power of consciousness, that is Maya, which cannot be seen or known or expressed by anyone in words and which form the root cause of diverse names and forms, be rooted out? Otherwise, how is Brahma to be meditated upon as the non-dual reality to gain deliverance? 102. Verse 102. Master, what becomes of the well-known qualities of air, water, fire when they are checked by amulets or incantations? If you stay as Satchitananda, free from other thoughts, Maya becomes extinct. No other method can be found in the whole range of the Vedas. Verse 103. What remains unmanifest in day becomes manifest as a port. To discard names and forms and recognize the clay is true knowledge. In the same manner, discard the fancied notions of plurality of being and realize the self as pure consciousness. Verse 104. Disciple, though false, how can the persistent appearance of non-being in sensuous misery in the fullness of being consciousness belief be wiped out? Master, though the reflection in a pool of water appears head downwards and tremulous, yet when the figure on the ground is considered, which remain upright and steady, that worthless image is then seen as unreal. So here ends the second video on Kaivalya Navneetam. So thank you for watching this video. Please comment, share and like the video and subscribe my channel. Thanks a lot, my dear friends. Thanks a lot. Thank you.